Hi there, welcome back to the Conifer Wood. So this video is about the making of Sally's trousers. It was originally meant to be like her entire outfit, all of the stuff that I drew in the model sheet in several episodes ago. But I wanted to cut this down to just the trousers because I really underestimated how difficult it would be to make these and how many iterations I had to go through. And I've heard that it's most dangerous when you know a very little about something because you're sort of overconfident about how much you know and you don't know how much you don't know. So you kind of like get ahead of yourself a bit, and I think that really happened with me on this video. So I'm just cutting it here, and the next one will be about the rest of her clothes that I'm going to be making. I really hope you enjoy this video as much as I enjoyed making it. Hopefully you can learn from some of the mistakes that I made. I've moved on to making some clothes for Sally. I started off with these trousers, which I got from this amazing website, Mood, where they have a lot of free patterns, and these are the Adair cargo pants, I think they're called. They're meant to have like pockets on the side and the front and the back, but because of the size, I thought that I'd forego them for the time being and just focus on trying to get the back and the front panels down correctly so that I can at least get the shape of the trousers. These are made of paper, just as a test. This is the thinnest stuff I could find. All the rest of the stuff that I've got is like 300 GSM, so that would never work in trying to make clothes. And even now it's like, I guess for her scale, a bit like wearing cardboard. So just for reference, this is what one of the back panels looks like. And there's a couple of problems that I found already. First is that it was really, really difficult to put on. Her bum is just too big to fit through this. So what I had to do was like split it down at the fly and at the back, which is still kind of like coming apart. So I think what I need to do for that is to make this piece come out further here and maybe elongate this. Also, you can see they're quite straight, and I sort of wanted them to taper here, or at least have some elasticated kind of like hem at the bottom. So I think for the next trial I'm going to taper these in like this, so it's much narrower at the bottom here. And yeah, I'm going to be making a couple of patterns out of this thick paper that I've got, and then I'm going to be using this, I guess it's cotton, but it's like slightly shiny, but it's actually material, so hopefully it'll work a bit better than the paper did. So you can see how that differs to that one. This is further out, this is wider. So that's the back part, and then the front part I don't actually have a pattern for, so I'm going to have to try and remember what it looks like. Here's the front piece. It's going to be like that. And this is the inside. And this is the outside seam. So what I'm going to do now is put darts into these bits here. So you see where that peak is. There's going to have a dart down there. That's on the two back pieces, and then on the two front pieces as well. So similarly, where that point is there, it's just going to come down. I found that the paper ones were doing that anyway. The original didn't actually have any darts on, but you can see the paper just sort of wanted to do that. So that's probably a good idea to put that into the fabric. So I've gone ahead and done all the darts, stitched up all the darts for these. The next stage is to sew the back and front pieces together on this side. So this is the outside seam, and they get stitched together right side together, like that. So the outside is on the inside, and then folded over and ironed down, and then sort of turned back outside out, inside in. What might be a bit difficult is on the pattern, it's saying to give 1/2 inch seam allowance. So the stitch is 1/2 inch away from the edge here, and 1/2 inch divided by 10 is like 1 millimeter, which is not very much. So I'm going to have to be really careful with this. So I might have to actually go a bit closer to the edge than 1 millimeter, because at that sort of scale, that's pretty much, you're just, as soon as you go through with the needle, you're pulling out threads. So I might have to go a little bit closer in. Hopefully I've given that enough space that it actually gets around her leg. That's working out quite well. So that's the front, and I'll do the other piece first, and then the next order of operation is to sew the back, those two curved sides together. I'll leave this one open as a fly, so that, you know, as a normal pair of trousers, you can have it a bit far open so it can get over your hips and then up to your waist, and then you can cinch it in. Not quite sure how to do this just yet. My flatmates suggested that I use Velcro, but I don't have any Velcro at the moment, so for this test, that's a no-go. I might just stitch it onto her very loosely, and then if I need to take it off and tailor it, I will just unpick that stitch. So I stitch the other side together, and also the back seam. So these are one piece now. Pretty happy with that. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be sewing the inside seam together up to this point here. So that'll get sewn up to there, and that will leave us with an opening like this. So that will be left open, and then when it comes to putting that onto Sally, maybe I'll do like a shoelace thing where I'll just go around, stitch that up very loosely, just so it kind of stays on her, and then I can see what needs to be done after that. There's a couple of other things as well, like it needs to be hemmed here, and also the pattern has a waistband that goes around the top, that much or so, which is just a strip. I think what I'm going to do is put this on before doing the hems or the waistline, see how that fits, see if anything needs doing, just so I'm not like wasting time doing all the sort of details. Something that I noticed with this and with the paper one as well that I was doing is that the inseam sort of like comes up like this for some reason. So I would have thought that the bum would be coming out more, but it seems like the front of it is doing that, which is a bit strange. But I suppose it's because the bum is sort of like coming in like this, so it's like pulling it that way, whereas this one doesn't have anything pulling it that way just yet. So maybe once I stitch the front together, it will start to sort of like pull backwards a bit. Hi, so I finished making the trousers for Sally. There they are on her. For the time being, the things that I'm most concerned about are, like there's not really a lot of space around her bum. She's kind of getting wedgy a bit. And the waist is, you can see it's coming down lower than it is at the front. It's sort of like running up here and then down here, so it's kind of twisted that way. Also with the darts, you can see that the waistline is not straight, so what the darts have done is just kind of made a peak. These trousers have a waistband around the top as well, and that's going to make it really difficult to sew that to the
trousers if the sort of interface line is not straight. The way that the fabric falls is quite nice. It's obviously because it's at a smaller scale, the weight of the fabric is proportionally a lot more. So it keeps its shape a lot more than you would expect trousers to on a full-sized person. But I quite like that. It's sort of bending quite nicely and making like quite sort of nice looking creases there. One thing that is annoying, and this is probably related to the fact that her bum doesn't have a lot of space in there, is that she can't lift her leg very much further than that. It's only really kind of that much, and I sort of would like her to get to a 90 degrees there. The silhouette of them is quite nice. They sort of come out like this and then back in, and that's sort of what I drew on the model sheet, so that's nice. I think for the next iteration, what I'm going to do is these points here, which is where both the panels for both legs, so all 4 pieces, like meet together in the middle. I'm going to make these wider, so they're going to come out a bit further. This slope is going to be a bit shallower, so it gives her a bit more space. I might pull this up a bit more, so that the back waistline is at the same height as the front waistline. Otherwise, I think these shapes are good. The taper's nice. That taper there. The pattern was straight-legged, but that just from a sort of guess, that's sort of quite nicely fitting her ankle there. And then also, yeah, I'm going to be a bit more careful with the how the pleats go. So at the moment, the pleats, they're sort of, this one's folded that way, and this one is also folded that way. Whereas like on a symmetrical pair of trousers, obviously this pleat would be symmetrical to that one, so this would be folded that way. This one would be folded that way. I don't know if you can see that. And then I did the same thing on the back as well. And then if that pattern goes well, I will probably try putting on the waistband as well, doing the hems of the trousers and putting on some of the pockets. 4 pairs of trousers later, I've come up with this design, which is pretty much the Adair cargo pants that I was talking about before from the Mood website. I was basically just tweaking the patterns from the black trousers, these ones, moving up to another pair of trousers that were sort of, I guess at this scale, they look kind of like wool, sort of like school trousers. But thinking about trying to make more space in the back, this one is like quite an extreme example. You can see the way that the waistband goes up at the back. And that was from a problem that I was finding, that when she was sitting down with her legs at 90 degrees to her spine, the back waistband was pulling way, way, way down. And that was part of an attempt to try and fix that. But what I actually found was that the taper of the legs was far too small. It took me a while to work this out, but when you lift your legs up to 90 degrees, you're essentially elongating the distance that fabric has to travel from the back of your waistband to the back of your ankle, and then the front is sort of compressed. And what that often results in is the ankle hem sort of riding up your shin, and I didn't realise that. So the tapers that I'd made from the black version all the way up to this second white one here were far too narrow and were getting caught on her calf muscle. And with a normal human body, that's not too much of a problem because your body is squishy, so it can sort of squish out of the way. And usually at a normal human scale, there's some stretch in fabrics. But with these ones, because she's got a hard body and the scale of the fabric doesn't quite work, they were getting stuck on her calf, so they weren't being able to ride up, which meant that instead of the ankle part giving the back of your trousers more room, it was having to pull the back waistband down to get that slack in there. So what I did with these ones was to widen the ankles, so this is more, it is still tapered, but it's much more straight than the previous ones. So you can see that's much more tapered down there, and actually that solved the problem, which was great. So this was a pattern that I liked. It worked pretty well. The only thing that was slightly annoying was that the waistband was just slightly too small. It didn't quite go all the way around. Well, it did, it met up, but it didn't meet up one side over the other like you would imagine how a zip and button system would work. It sort of only met up to there, so I had to sort of tie that in with a piece of thread to keep it from falling off. So on the pattern I made the waistband slightly wider, but it ended up being sort of 2 centimeters or something wider in the final trousers, which is a bit surprising. So I had to do some emergency tailoring at the back. So this is like a pleat. It's kind of going in, then folding back out, and then round, and then back in like that. And then I also put pockets on the back as well.
So these pockets are roughly following the guides from the Adair cargo pants patterns that I was following, and they work really well at that scale, but because there's so many folds in this, they end up becoming quite sort of chunky, and you can see they're really like, they look like they've been stuck on rather than being sort of like cohesive part of it. They don't really conform to the shape that the base material is having. But I think that's pretty much unavoidable with certain things. I've said before as well that the scale of an animation means that certain things just physically can't look the right way, like veneer woods, pieces of wood or something like that. The grain will never be small enough to fit the scale. Similarly with materials, you'll never get a material that's weave is so fine that it looks like maybe like a denim weave at 1:10 scale. So there are certain things that we have to look past, I suppose, for not quite working at 1:10 scale, and I think these pockets are one of those things. The other thing is that I never quite worked out a way to do a button and a zip. The way that I sewed this, it was quite difficult to sort of like get that to overlap in the way that a natural zip would. So what I ended up doing was just tying a piece of thread at the top here, and I hope when it comes down to it that when I make the jumper, it will go far enough over that it's sort of like hiding all of that. And hopefully that hides the pleat at the back as well, because I'm not particularly proud of that. But otherwise it works quite well, I think. She can do the 90 degrees like that. So she can do pretty much 90. I mean, it's not quite, but it's close enough. The thing that I need to be wary about is the trousers don't fall back down when she comes back out of the 90 degrees. So in the animation, I'll need to be careful to sort of like pull this down so that space is given back to her. I think it turned out quite well. And I like the colour. It's sort of what I was planning for. And the material. When I drew it, I was kind of thinking about more of a plasticky look. So this original black material is sort of you can see it's slightly shiny. That was the sort of material that I was imagining that these would be. And this sort of charcoal grey thing, when I've got a sheet of it, it looks pretty nice. It looks like it would work. Again, with the scale thing, it sort of ended up looking a bit like denim, which is interesting. And I'm not too fussed about that. I think denim works equally well here as a sort of more plasticky tech wear kind of material would. I mean, jeans are originally working trousers, so I think that works okay. So that was a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I did making it. I think that her trousers were pretty successful in this, actually. There's a kind of cartoony look to it, which I wasn't really planning on doing, but I think it worked out quite well in the end. I've done a little animation test that I'm going to be playing at the end of this little outro here. Maybe you can see the sorts of problems that I was talking about during the video, what sort of things I'm trying to think about as I'm designing these clothes. About how they're going to work when I'm putting the animation together. So I'm just going to leave it there for now. I hope you enjoy the tiny little animation at the end, and I'll see you in the next one. As I mentioned in the intro, hey Frida, do you want to join in?